If you want to cut the white border off the mat, you're welcome to. If you want to leave it on, you can leave it on if you want to as well. So now you want to use carpet tape and you want to put it on the back of the board. And we also want to make sure we put them in spots where we know we're going to have things attached that will have to be kind of hit as obstacles, or hopefully not hit, but things that might be used in the competition. For example, the bell, the wind turbine, the building, and those kinds of things. So what I usually do is I'll put this on the edges. I'm going to leave the cover piece on there. So next, again, I want to look and see where I have my spots. So I'm going to put a piece right here. Now, when I lift it up, I can kind of see through the mat itself too, just to make sure it's on the spot. Again, this helps to make sure we reinforce things that are actually attached to the board so they don't pull off of the actual board itself. Now we're going to take this and try our best to make it straight and flat on the wall board. So what I find helpful is I'm going to get lined up and I'm going to roll up the mat again. I'm going to take this top piece off. I'm going to lay it flat as I can across the top and side best I can. Now I'll take each of these pieces off. Don't forget that. Now it's time to put the pieces on the board. Specifically with this, these are the objects I 3D printed, and unfortunately the pen is not as strong as I thought it was going to be. The blades are pretty strong, but if you happen to break your pen by pulling the blades in and out, it's okay. You just try to have to shove the rest of the broken part out of this top piece and you replace it. Now replacing it, you should have the red mark on the end. And we want to put this gap piece close on this side of the turbine, okay? And so we'll put this in here. And again, if your pin breaks, just use a nail. I think Vanessa has put an extra nail in your packet that she put out in the mail. So we'll push that in, and you should already have a hole there. We'll just push it into the middle there. And again, kind of get it nice and tight in there. Don't push it in too tight because then it won't turn. So give it a little bit of space where it can turn and it should be fine. So we're going to put tape on the bottom of this. And I want to put it more on the kind of the front end of that if I cut it just right. And that should be good enough to hold what we need to. So when we put it down, it should completely cover this square really good, but I want to make sure I at least get it perfectly on the tip. closest to the platform. When I put it down, I'm going to make sure it covers that perfectly. Now on this one, it'll cover the blue line. That was just my error whenever we put this together, that we didn't have it big enough where we could see the perimeter of the blue line. But now I know it's on the tip perfectly there, and it should stay pretty good. Now sometimes this will bend and turn. This can take a few hits, but if you break your turbine rotors or your propellers here, I think they're more called rotors, then just let us know. Okay. Now for the bell, we like to use this kind of tape. It's a little bit easier to work with. You could use the carpet tape, but it's not going to be as easy. It's the indoor double-sided mounting tape, Scotch brand. So for this, I just need to put basically 4 on here, because we don't want it where it's sticking out too much where the robot might run over it or whatever. And just put it kind of on there like that. Like I said, it might stick out just a tad bit. And then when you put it down, you want to put it inside that blue circle as best you can. And it should fit perfectly on top of the blue circle. Again, I wish I'd have made it a little bit bigger where we could see the blue circle, but just do it best you can on that. All right, that should hold pretty well. Now for the Ashby tree, we'll go right on top of that block as well. And this one you'll actually see just a little bit of the blue perimeter. And so we'll put some of this double-sided tape again on the bottom of this. Then I can place my wood pieces right here, and those do not get attached, because obviously those will be for the play of the game. Again, your Ashby tree is an obstacle. And we've got that piece below there too, so it should kind of remain pretty strong, connected to the board. You'll take your block and your sticky paper, and you will add them together. Boom. So on this side, we want to have the area where we're going to put the light switch. And we've given you the Velcro as well, and that's so that you can take the light switch off to replace the batteries as needed. Now you want to make sure that when you attach this, that your light switch will be pushed up to go on. And so it should fit right there within that square, or that rectangle. And again, I have it where I can, if I need to take it off, I can replace the batteries. Now, if you do it a lot, the paper will come off the wood, and you just have to retape it or reapply some glue to the paper. Now, same thing like with the Ashby tree. I'm going to use a double-sided tape to put on the bottom of the block of wood. It's a pretty heavy piece, so it shouldn't really move too much. But again, because they're going to be pushing, I'm going to put a strip here in the middle and on the back end. And just as a reminder, we're going to put the light switch kind of as a challenge obstacle with the tree in front of it. And I wanted to go right on top of that square area where I can see. I'm going to put it basically kind of to cover up the front part of the blue line, where I can see kind of the back of the blue line. That helps me to kind of keep it straight. Push it down. Now the reason I want to use this tape is because if I do have to move this board, this is a heavy piece. And this tape should allow us to kind of take it off the mat pretty well, as opposed to the carpet tape, which would be a lot stronger and maybe harder to take it off. So I encourage you to use that kind of tape for this. For your charger, once you put the sticker on, you want to put your magnet on top of that rectangular area, and we suggest that you use hot glue to really reinforce that and make it strong. Now, we showed you before with the cars, we're going to change one thing. This may not work as well as far as the strength of the magnet. It'll stick just a little bit, but not as much as we want to, as opposed to changing the magnet going up and down on the back of the car. However, some of the vehicles might have a different type of back end on the bumper and everything. So we suggest that you still try your best to make it nice and straight. I'm going to put some hot glue, nice and thick on the back end there, without hurting yourself. Make that stick on, and we want to make it nice and straight up and down. We'll let that dry. And now we have a much better, stronger connection. You should be able to feel it a little bit more. So next, for the chargers, I've hot glued those magnets on. I want to make sure I put the sticky tape again on the bottom of those on the bottom of these chargers so they don't move. If you find that the robots are hitting this a lot, just replace the tape as much as you need. Now we're going to face these. We want to kind of face them out to the parking lot, and this will be pretty important. How we're going to face this? You got these lines here, and it's technically designed to go facing between the lines. Now the cars won't have to be parked in the lines necessarily for it to count, but if we put it straight, then it should hopefully be nice and straight for us for a parking lot. And again, that should hopefully cover completely that circle template on the mat. Now, however, the kids decide, again, I've got my cars and I've changed the direction of the magnet on the back, and they should be able to connect nice and smooth with that. Again, in the competition, as long as the magnet's touching, that's fine. We don't care how straight it's going to be necessarily, as long as it's touching the charger in some way. Now finally, for the fire pit, you should have your template here. You can put it on that inner panel if you'd like to. Kind of fun to do that. Okay. But we're going to place, like we did with the bell, we're going to place our strips of thing on the back here, or we're going to place our tape on the bottom part there. And it should totally encompass the orange circle there. So one other final thing to consider is having a perimeter border area. And so we have these nice little acrylic pieces that we got from Lowe's. And we basically just put them around the board and we'll tape it around the board like that. And the reason you want to have that is it keeps, obviously, the robot from falling off the table, but also when the kids when they put the robot down, it gives it a specific area. And so if you practice without that, sometimes the robot hangs off and they're not used to that. When they go to compete, it might be an issue. Now, if they can put the robot here and part of it hangs over the wall this way, not a big deal, as long as it doesn't mess up the robot's function. So remember, the robot mostly has to start on this platform somewhere. It can stick off into the woods, it's fine. It can go in any angle it wants to go, but it always has to start back here. So just as a reminder, you guys, when you're running your board, the team captain is the only one that can touch that robot. And when they touch the robot, it has to go back to the start. It can't be placed anywhere else on the board. It has to go back to the start. You can add and take off different pieces for your robot for a different task, that's fine. But it has to go back to start. If something on the board is still left on the board, let's say that you tried to move the logs here and they dropped off the robot, are you allowed to pick up those logs and put them back during the competition? No, you'll be disqualified if you do that. So what we say during the competition is you just gotta let it lay. You don't want to touch the board. Only you can touch the robot, and that's all you can touch. Another important thing about the wind turbine is you want the red to be able to stay on the top, and the robot somehow has to get it to turn at least one time around. Again, for these cars, it's important that the car is facing the same direction as the one on the picture, and it has to be on top of that picture in some way. Also, in regard to the line follow, the robot can follow the line either direction. And again, each line is worth 20 points individually. If you can get both lines, that's 50 points total. Now they don't have to be in order either. So you can probably do this line, do a task, and then go do the other line, and that's fine too. But important thing is we have to visually see the robot pick up the line. With the light sensor, we're going to see the light hit the mat, and it has to pick up the line before it gets to this traffic light, and it has to go all the way around, and it has to pass the other traffic light. So again, if you do it the other direction, same thing, it's got to pick it up before this light, and it's going to pass this light. And this is a reminder for these cars. The car has to be stuck on the magnet. And so in any direction, as long as the magnets are touching each other, that's fine. But if it's barely there and it's not touching, it doesn't count. Also with these logs, once they're transported in some way, they need to be deposited within the ring here. And this is a reminder, let's say it's sticking out like this, it's still going to count. But if it touches the ground outside the fire ring in any way, that one piece does not count. Again, those are going to be 10 points each. And so you want to make sure all your pieces are in there in some way. Now, for example, let's say you have it like this, you run another task, and the robot comes over there and hits it off. Guess what? It's touching, it doesn't count. So for this task, it's how many logs there are inside this fire ring by the end of the round. Same thing with the car. It's what it looks like at the end of the round. Let's say you do a great job of parking your car over there, and all of a sudden your robot goes haywire and hits it off like this. Oh, does it count anymore? No, it doesn't. The same thing with the light switch. The light switch has to be on at the end of the round. If the light lever goes up like this and it's not turned on, it doesn't count. And the judge will make sure the light comes on. That way we make sure we have fresh new batteries and that kind of thing as well. But you'll notice there's a little bit of a catch right here to make sure it goes on. So y'all need to practice with that as much as you can. Reminder with a bell. The bell, you have to actually depress this plunger right here to make the sound. Now if your robot does it too slow, you can't really hear a sound. So we have to see the plunger depressed and hear the sound.